is it the player that's helping to generate the revenue, or do we need the broadcast deals and the revenue to help keep the player and whatnot? And hi, I'm Caitlin.
Hi, I'm Alex.
And you're listening to Raising the Game, a podcast covering the rise and opportunity, visibility, accessibility of women's sports globally. We're a husband-wife team who are avid sports fans raising 2 young girls and find the exposure and investment in women's sports a gateway for them and other young girls like them to see their passions for play, performance, and leadership. Not as extracurriculars to be added to a resume or a discipline with an expiration date after high school, but as a real opportunity to build a career as an athlete, a coach, an analyst, an athletic trainer, a director of sports operations, or maybe even a podcaster.
Each week, we're bringing you the top stories in women's professional and sometimes collegiate sports. We'll highlight primetime performers, key business decisions, economic impacts, and the growing opportunities for women's athletics. You'll hear our perspectives on these stories as fans, but perhaps more importantly as parents who value what these stories mean for our kids. If there is a storyline or topic you'd like to hear us talk about, reach out via email or on social media at RTGPod on Instagram, Threads, and YouTube.
Yeah.
We did it.
We're doing
it. We're doing it again.
We're doing it.
First official episode.
First official episode. And I think before we dive into this episode, we'll, of course, do favorite thing after this. But we just wanted to start by saying, if you couldn't tell from our accents, you certainly would be able to tell by which teams we cheer loudest for on this podcast that we are from the great state of Minnesota and live close to the Twin Cities area where, if you're following along with the news, tensions have been high. Communities are in a bit of disarray these days. And we felt like it was important to acknowledge that is going on. Obviously, we come here to talk about sports, but there are things going on in the world that are bigger than sports. And absolutely. So the last couple of weeks have been hard for our communities here. And I think we just really want to call attention to opportunities for our audience to support people in those communities. So something that came to mind to us as we were talking about this was a lot of restaurants that we really like to go to have either shuttered or are doing limited service with some of the disruption that's going on in our city. And so we're actually going to link in our bio or in the show notes for this episode ways that you can support those eateries and a few other funds that go towards supporting
different
families
community aspects and things like that.
Exactly. So we just wanted to start with that. But of course, we also love sport because it's something that brings us together. So we are going to get into this week's episode.
Let's do it. Let's start off with your favorite thing from the past week.
Okay. I was trying to think of like what this would be. So as we mentioned, we're starting out with this, right? And so we've spent the last couple of weeks working on, how do we pull these episodes together? What are we going to talk about? And we've shared them with a very small group of trusted people. And I think something that was really cool was I shared it with a mentor, coworker of mine. And she immediately gave it a listen and then turned around and was like, hey, do you want tickets to go to a women's college gymnastics meet? And she's like, you need more material for your podcast. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. Every time. But it was cool. I mean, this is a person who I have a lot of respect for. And so kind of hearing her feedback was awesome. But then also to reap the benefit, if you will, of being able to get exposure to different sports and
something
things
we
that
probably would have never gone to.
So, exactly. What about you?
I think my favorite thing this past week, I really love Unrivaled. I like 4 nights straight
so good
of just women's basketball. It's fast paced. It's fun. I think anybody can win on any night. Doesn't matter what your record is. I think the Lunar Owls are 0-4 as of this recording. think they played.
They're about to play.
They're about to play. I think they could get one out right here. But yeah, 4 nights in a row. It's fun. You have a whole weekend to look forward to, and yeah.
Yeah, I think I just want to add to that really quick was another person who we've been sharing the pod with, like texts me out of the blue while we're watching Unrivaled on Saturday night, I think it was.
Yep.
And he's just like, dude, watching Unrivaled, this is so cool. Like, again, this is a person who probably wouldn't have watched Unrivaled unless we had talked about it.
I think they had said they didn't even know it existed.
Yeah. So it feels cool. Like we're, even in this small circle, we're starting to create some exposure for these leagues and things. Yep. And we have more of it to talk about with you today. Let's get into our top headlines.
Let's look at our headlines here. All right. Lindsey Vonn and Michaela Schifrin qualify for the 2026 Winter Olympics.
Both I know have been dealing with different injury things that they've been having to navigate throughout the later stages of their career. So it'll be really fun to watch them. We'll talk a little bit more about the Olympics later in the show.
Awesome. WNBA League Leadership and Players Association agreed a free agency moratorium.
Yes, and we will definitely get into that and then kind of what that means, right? We've committed to sharing updates on that week over week as that progresses.
Despite player moratorium, expansion team Toronto Tempo continue to build out coaching staff behind former Liberty head coach Sandy Brondello.
Yep. And this is just big because Brondello had led the Liberty to championship games a few years in a row and was let go at the end of last season. Yep. So it'll be interesting to see how she does with an expansion team.
Unrivaled viewership in week 1 of competition down from the inaugural season.
So not all good news on Raising the Game. It comparative to the first season, the first numbers came out. We felt like this was worth mentioning. There's a lot of reasons why this could be. But generally speaking, all we have to say is go watch Unrivaled.
Yeah. Athletes Unlimited Basketball League announces players involved, preps for league kickoff on February 1st. I'd have no idea that this league even existed. Yeah,
so this is like another alternative that they have to play in the off season and not go overseas. It's a very different format. We'll talk about it at some point.
Okay.
There's individual scoring systems plus team scoring systems, so it varies from Unrivaled, but really cool, something worth looking into.
All right, next up, Montreal Victoire snapped the Ottawa Charge 6-game win streak in PWHL action.
So they started the week snapping the Charge win streak, and then they ended the week in front of a 17,000 plus crowd in their takeover tour that the PWHL does, where they play, I think it's like 16 games in 11 different cities that are not home cities of these teams. They lost to the New York Sirens, but by the end of the game, the Washington, D.C. fans were chanting, "We want a team.
Give them a team.
We want a team.
Give them a team. Just do it." Team USA Women's Hockey has Media Day as they prepare to kick off their gold medal campaign on February 5th against Czechia. Got it. That's a hard one. Big movement in NWSL signings. Lindsey Heaps to Denver Summit, Sam Coffey to Manchester City, Ludmila to San Diego Wave.
Yeah, we're going to talk about some of these offseason moves in a little bit here.
Okay. Rose Lavelle named 2025 U.S. Soccer Female Player of the Year. Lily Real named Young Player of the Year. Netflix plans to make a movie about the famed 99ers, casting Emily Bader as Mia Hamm.
Emily Bader recently starred in People We Meet on Vacation. Okay. So for you romance novel readers out there, maybe you've seen that.
Australian Open served up first-round matches this past weekend with American players like Coco Gauff, Sloane Stephens, Madison Keys, and Amanda Anisimova all beginning their run to a title. Star-studded investor group for the new Women's Tomorrow's Golf League includes Alex Morgan, Abby Wambach, and Mia Hamm. NCAA D1 representatives voted to add women's flag football to the NCAA Emerging Sports for Women program.
Lots of headlines.
Ton of headlines
this past week. It was hard to narrow it down and They were coming from all different directions. We've got Netflix with a deal to make a movie about the 99ers, Australian Open, like so many different things.
And Mia Hamm twice on the front page of my call sheet.
Mia Hamm twice on the front page of the call sheet. That's a good week.
Yeah, it's a good week.
That's a good week.
All right, let's dig into our deep dive for the week.
Yeah, so we'll keep it on soccer.
Yeah, let's do it.
Or football, depending on where you live in the world. We will probably refer to it as soccer because we grew up here in America. But maybe interchangeable.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about the NWSL, so National Women's Soccer League. I think it's starting its 14th or 15th season or something of that nature. But we came to you a couple weeks back talking about the Trinity Rodman contract saga.
Yep.
And shared a little bit about how, in response to denying a lucrative contract deal with one of the top stars from the U.S. Women's National Team, who played for the Washington Spirit. Yeah. She's now a free agent. NWSL denied that contract, came up with this high impact player rule that's now being referred to as the Rodman Rule.
Yep.
And wanted to dig in a little bit as we just talk about like how the offseason for the NWSL is shaping up in general. About what that might signal for the league, right?
Yep.
And so I had found this really awesome op-ed. One of my favorite women's soccer writers, Meg Linehan, who writes for The Athletic, read through her article, and she really framed it up well, I thought, of talking about how the league claimed to be fighting to keep Trinity, right? Like that was a statement they made, and through her investigation and kind of piecing this together, she's like, they're really fighting with themselves. And we've highlighted this before, but these leagues, there's a little bit of like that chicken and egg of, is it the player that's helping to generate the revenue, or do we need the broadcast deals and the revenue to help keep the player and whatnot? And I think in response to what felt like a bit of an exodus of these national team stars, right? Last year you had Naomi Girma, Alyssa Thompson. We just saw Sam Coffey sign a deal to go over to Manchester City. There's a question of whether or not the NWSL is structured in a way to keep top talent.
Yeah. I think something that I was thinking about as I was prepping was, you're kind of seeing a similar thing. We've talked about this before. The similar thing playing out in the NWSL as the WNBA, with not necessarily like the same thing, but around salaries and negotiations and things like that. Except the NWSL has this little thing called other leagues that are very well established, like the WSL, that these players can be like, okay, bye, I'll just go somewhere else.
Right.
And so obviously Sam Coffey leaving, we did see Lindsey Heaps come back, which is interesting. So there is a little bit of a balance there, but I just think it's very interesting to be in a situation where you have this issue and there's an outlet for players to go do something completely different. And obviously there's Unrivaled for WNBA, but that's very new level. And it's not on the same level as the WNBA.
Yeah, exactly. And I think what's interesting, you mentioned that. So I read the Linehan article and really appreciated that perspective. But then I also listened to an interview that one of the co-owners of the Gotham FC team did on Bloomberg. So Caroline Tish Blodgett, she is the majority owner. Her group Next 3 is the majority owner of Gotham FC. They had her on and were asking her about what she thought of this, right? And she said basically what you just said, right? And we heard this from the president of soccer operations, the new president of soccer operations for the Spirit, when we talked about that a couple weeks back. This is a global game. It's actually a great signal for women's soccer.
Yeah.
There was definitely a time a few years ago, even 5, 6, 7 years ago, where you wouldn't see players wanted to come and play here. And we've seen such tremendous growth in the programs and the funding and investment in women's soccer outside of the States, where we've talked before, has been a perennial powerhouse with the U.S. Women's National Team and the investment that's been made there. And so she was saying, she's like, we see this as a good thing. Like, it forces us as owners to actually compete against these clubs internationally, right? It's not just within our league. It's extra league as well. And I thought she also, I really liked, I want to pull this out. She said, you know, we wake up every day kind of focused on one question as our North Star, so to speak. And why would a player want to come play for our club? Right. So she said they're really focused on the resources that come, you know, obviously the league deals with the salary structures and things like that. And I do think that's kind of one of the pieces at stake here. But when you're thinking about what is available to players with these opportunities, you know, Trinity Rodman was quoted as saying, like, I'd be kicking myself if I didn't go take a chance to play overseas. Lindsey Heaps coming back. She played overseas. She actually did 2 separate stints overseas. So she's kind of done that. And so it's not always about the money. I think that is a big factor here, but it's also about what opportunity does that afford you to play under a different coach? Are we talking about different resources and things like that too? So, I think just to kind of cap that section off, and then we're going to start talking about some of the free agent movements and trades and whatnot. The NWSL Players Association has demanded an immediate rescission of that rule. They claim that by offering the high impact player rule essentially allows teams $1 million on top of their salary cap to retain players that fit a certain criteria. And the Players Association is basically their position is this fundamentally changes salary structure or should be considered a change to salary structure, which should be collectively bargained. They deem it unfair to say that only a small subset of players, I think I was reading that based on the qualifications of high impact player rule, it's a very small percentage of NWSL players that fit that criteria. And so they're saying it's not equitable to offer that money only to those players when really what we should be doing is just negotiating a higher salary cap across the board.
I think it's tough too, because it's like they were trying, like we said before, they're trying to do something, but the union for the players has to do everything for all of their players, not just a couple of their players.
Yes. And it's very clear. I mean, the league is trying to position it as it doesn't have anything to do with Trinity. And it's like, well, your timing's a little funny, right? Like you veto the deal and then turn around 2 weeks later and immediately vote to like ratify this rule. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say like, I think it was Trinity. I think it's about Trinity. All right. So on that note, let's switch gears here and let's talk about some of the movement on these teams from an off-season perspective. So we've already mentioned Sam Coffey leaving the Portland Thorns. She's been there for many years, midfield stalwart. She's actually one of my favorite players to watch right now, but signs with Manchester City. So she's going to be going overseas to the WSL for her next season. But we've got Lindsey Heaps coming back, captain of the U.S. women's national team, coming back home. So she is a Colorado girl, gets to go home. I watched a tearjerker of a video where they like surprised her parents with the fact that she had signed, and I was like, that's amazing. Super cute. So we've got expansion teams like Denver Summit, which you just mentioned, Heaps signing to, and then the Boston Legacy. So bringing a team back to the Boston area, which is fun. They've had teams before in previous iterations of the league, which is pretty cool. Another thing I noticed, Angel City FC seems to be restructuring. They had some high profile retirements, Kristen Press and Allie Riley, like longtime vets. Allie Riley from the New Zealand women's national team, Kristen Press from the U.S. women's national team. So they're looking to rebuild, and then some key re-signings. So Chicago Stars FC re-signed U.S. women's national team, or former U.S. women's national team, Alyssa Nair, goalkeeper Alyssa Nair.
All right.
And Riley Tiernan. So that's some good stuff to look forward to there.
It looks like Denver also had a kind of a big signing as well besides Lindsey Heaps.
Yes. So they signed Ayo Oke, who is a former UCLA Bruin. She had gone after college to play at Pachuca in Mexico.
Okay.
And signed the largest interleague, so cross league transfer deal, incoming transfer fee from Pachuca that the NWSL has seen. We mentioned Ludmila already, Brazilian star, signs with the San Diego Wave. I don't really know what the Wave are doing.
It feels like they've been all over the place a little bit.
Yeah, because then, the next one I want to mention here is Kaylin Sheridan, longtime goalkeeper for the Wave, Canadian U.S. women's national goalkeeper, starting goalkeeper, now signed with the North Carolina Courage, which will be interesting to see how she goes over there in that system. Additions to Angel City, we mentioned that Emily Sams, who plays for the national team, as well as Ari Borges, who's another Brazilian international. And then the final one that's really a big mention coming from the Wave to defending champions Gotham FC, Savannah McCaskill, another kind of stalwart midfielder, really fun to watch.
Actually, a question on the Heaps to Denver Summit. And then obviously the Iowa was a big deal there as well. Do you think that they're trying to spend a little bit more money up front so that inaugural season they try to bring in as much as they can ticket sale wise? Like they're trying to sign a bunch of talent quick to say we're serious about this. And how does that play out when you get to filling out the rest of the team with the money that you have kind of left over?
Yeah, that's a great question. I actually have kind of in our next section, we're going to talk about investment, and the Summit are a club where they clearly are putting money behind what this experience is like for players and fans. And so it would lend itself to think that they're trying to pull in some names that people are going to recognize, that are going to draw fans, that are going to create some of that brand recognition that you really need as they get started in different ways than our expansion teams from last season. So last season we had the Utah Royals and Bay FC, so Bay Area, San Francisco kind of. And I remember there being like some chatter. There are certainly some big names behind Bay FC. I think Brandy Chastain of the 99ers might be backing them in some way, shape, or form, but you didn't really like hear about them. Yeah. And so while it's interesting to think that, yes, they're putting some money behind some of these players, it's still going to remain to be seen if they can actually win. Yeah. Because I think that's what ultimately, if you think about the Wave, like San Diego Wave became like our team when this league, a couple years ago, when we kind of started to latch on to this, right? And that was they were an expansion team. They were successful, like right out the gate. And that was really, really fun. So that'll be interesting. And then to your second part of your question, thinking about how you fill that roster out, right? Yep. That is where you need a really good GM. Yeah. Because there's a ton of talent coming out of the college game, right? And then there's opportunity, obviously, to sign players who are free agents from other clubs. And then there's obviously the international game that we can be looking at. I mean, Io Oke is an example. She's coming in from a Mexican club. And so that really starts to become like a puzzle that general managers, coaching staffs, et cetera, director of sporting operations have to figure out to understand, like, okay, I've signed Heaps. What do I need around a player who has style of play like her, or whatever it might be? Right?
And I think from what I saw, it's Kurt Johnson is the GM there. Mm-hmm. And I think from what I understand, he's been around the game a while. I think he knows probably what he's doing. Yeah.
Well, let's use that. I mean, that'd be a good transition. Yeah. Is that into...
Can I fix one thing before we transition? I just don't want this to like rub against... Oops, sorry.
On the mic.
I don't want it to,
Yeah. Well, let's use that as a transition to talk about some of these investments. So I started to do some digging into how these teams are being supported from a facilities perspective. So if you've been around, have heard of the NWSL, you may know that the Kansas City Current, who won the Shield last year, so that's the regular season champions, They have the first ever fully dedicated sporting facility, stadium, training, etc., for a women's professional team. They have a lot of investment behind them.
Yeah.
I think most famously the
Mahomes. Yeah.
Brittany Mahomes is one of the primary investors. But the Denver Summit, so this is pretty cool. And actually the 3 examples I'm going to give are 3 really unique ways that these teams have gone about funding or partnering with their communities. So the Denver Summit are building a multi-acre training facility with multiple fields, a 20,000 square foot training building. And in that area, they're going to build a 12,000 seat temporary stadium for the 26 and 27 seasons. And this is in the Cherry Creek School District, which is like the Centennial. It's called the Centennial neighborhood. And what's interesting is they're partnering with that school district. So the school district is going to have access to some of the fields and things there. And then when they're actually done using that temporary stadium, they're going to knock it down to 4,000 and then it can be used for
the school district. That's awesome.
Yeah. So I thought that was really cool. And then their 14,500 seats permanent stadium is being built just south of downtown Denver. So close to the city. I think it's supposed to be they're trying to create like a little bit of a corridor with Mile High Stadium and Ball Arena and things like that. So different example, and this one was cool as we continue to see crossovers between the NWSL and the WNBA, but the Portland Thorns are in the process of building $150 million state-of-the-art training facility that will be shared with WNBA expansion team Portland Fire.
Wow. Okay.
And so this is on the Nike. It's like an old Nike
they're up there.
building, right? Something that's not being used by Nike for what maybe it was before. But that's going to be available starting this year for both the Fire and, if the WNBA season happens, and the Thorns, which is pretty cool. And then the third one I have here, the Chicago Stars FC, they're working on building a standalone training facility, 2 training pitches, a goalkeeper specific pitch, and a 45,000 square foot training building that's slated to open in 2027.
That's incredible.
What's interesting about the Chicago Stars is they're a team that frankly hasn't had a ton of success in recent years, but clearly there's investment happening there, right? Which is interesting, right? You've got teams that are successful like the Portland Thorns, you've got an expansion team, and then you've got the Stars who haven't done great. Now they do boast Mallory Swanson, one of the triple espresso from the 2024 Olympics. So all in all, I think it's cool to see these facilities coming up. And again, this is like stuff you would have never imagined having as a female athlete.
Still kind of wild to imagine it now even. Like it's crazy.
So one other thing I wanted to mention on the expansion team front that I found as I was doing some digging for this, right? We've mentioned that Boston and Denver will be joining, but slated to join in 2028 is a team in Atlanta, Georgia, my home city. This is supposedly being done behind a record $165 million expansion fee backed by Arthur Blank's ownership group. Arthur Blank's ownership group also owns the Falcons and the MLS team Atlanta United. And they are planning right now to play in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. I believe the AMB ownership group also owns that. But that is huge. That's a huge stadium.
I think it goes. I think we talked about this maybe last week with LOVB and how they were have a franchise coming to San Antonio via the Spurs ownership group. And so I think you're seeing this. There's definitely some institutional type investors that are looking at this and saying, these are desirable, they're profitable, we need to get in now. It's really cool.
One last shout out on this, and then we're going to shift gears a little bit, but there are other markets being considered for NWSL expansion teams. And on the short list, we have 2 for Ohio, Columbus and Cincinnati, which I do have to say, I have coworkers who live near the Columbus area. They have season tickets to the Columbus Crew. Like, it's a great soccer state.
I feel like the women's national team plays there
all the time,
once or twice a year, minimum.
All the time. Yeah. So Columbus, Cincinnati, but bids are being made for our very own Minnesota Aurora.
All right. We got to do it.
Go pro.
There is a brand new stadium that the Loons play in.
Yeah. Allianz
right
Field.
There. We have a sister team.
That's right. Yeah. So I think that would be amazing if they could make it happen.
That would probably be our first true professional season ticket get if that
100%,
happened.
100%. Yeah. So stay tuned. We'll keep you posted on that, but that probably won't happen before 2028 at the very earliest, if not after that. So let's move on.
Yeah. So we moving on to, we've got the Women's World Cup coming up next year.
Women's World Cup.
And not only that, the year after, the Olympics in LA.
Okay. So I'm going to nerd out here for a little bit. So just letting the audience know that the U.S. women's national soccer team is my favorite team of all time. You cannot tell me otherwise to like a different team more than I like them. And I followed them through all of their kind of ups and downs. I still remember watching we've mentioned the 99ers a couple times in this episode, watching that game, like the hype, the excitement, all of that, and then all the things that have come in between. And so when I tell you that I'm going to nerd out, we're going to dig into a little bit of that history. But I think I want to start with Alex mentioned, right? We've got Women's World Cup in 2027 in Brazil. And then we have the Olympics in 2028. That makes 2026 a crucial year for qualifying, because oftentimes there's linkages between that qualifying between the two tournaments so that you're not having to overplay these teams. But it's going to create a lot of fun, especially at the back half of 2026 for international women's soccer. So we're going to break that down a little bit for you. We're not going to go super deep into this today, but we'll give a little bit of an overview. So there are 6 confederations around the world. One for each continent, not Antarctica, if you want to be like really simplistic about it. There are key qualifying moments this year. So the UEFA League, which is the European League, the Asian League, and the African League will all start qualifying beginning in March of this year. Asia and Africa will have their qualifying teams by the end of March. They play some kind of short intercontinental tournaments, and then it's done. UEFA is doing a preliminary round of qualifiers, and then there's some more stuff to come a little bit later in the year. Final tournaments, as I mentioned, for Europe, and then also North America. So CONCACAF, right? Which is going to be Canada, Mexico, and the United States. That will begin at the end of 2026. So kind of the October to December timeframe. If I have my work hat on, this is Q4. It was really hard for me to not think that way when I was doing the notes. CONMEBOL, which is the South American or LATAM, because it also includes Central America, League, and Oceania will have their qualifiers by June for CONMEBOL and April for Oceania. Each of these different confederations are allowed a different number of qualifiers. So like Oceania only gets 1. Whereas Europe gets 11. Right. And so there's variation. A lot of it's just density of the teams, right? As of right now, just to be clear, the only team that has qualified is because they automatically do as the host nation. Yes. So Brazil has qualified. We will get to see them at the Women's World Cup in 2027. We probably would have regardless.
Anyway,
So, I think this is going to be really interesting to watch, as these different professional teams progress through their seasons. You're going to see a lot more kind of consideration for how do we manage injury? How are we actually thinking about the international schedule a little bit differently? And then, well, last year, I think we got to watch the U.S. women's national team came into town. We got to watch them play. And if you watched any of their games, Emma Hayes was really working on trying to understand the pieces she had available to her.
Plugging in a lot of the youth.
Like, I think I didn't look up the exact numbers, but there was a very significant number of players getting first time caps. A lot of the players that we were used to seeing in the Olympics and the last World Cup were not in the rotation for different reasons. I mean, you've got Sophia Wilson, formerly Smith, and Mallory Swanson. They're both out on maternity leave. Sorry. There. And then just other things. I know Rose Lavelle's been working on and off with some injuries, and think Trinity Rodman's another example of that. So there's been some injury management and stuff, but we'll be curious to see. I think there's kind of one more slate that we'll talk about and what to watch that it sort of is a precursor to matches that matter.
Yeah. So I was actually thinking we have a really interesting this year. You said there's a lot of interesting things happening. You have the season for the NWSL.
Mm-hmm.
You have all these qualifiers that can happen. So the NWSL GMs, coaches have to think about how they're going to have rosters built out. You also have this break for the Men's World Cup because they're using all the different stadiums and whatnot, or however that's working. Yeah. So you have that break. So you have season break, season qualifier, all these moving parts that I don't know if the NWSL has had to deal with a ton. I mean, they probably dealt with it before, but like it's a lot to understand what your roster is going to be from week to week for the NWSL. Yeah.
I think that's a really good point. We forgot to mention the NWSL schedule came out last week for 2026 season, and noticeably absent was any games in June.
Yeah.
Because the Men's World Cup is being played here in the States, and so they're taking up some of the stadium space and just accessibility, I think, is probably the league is worried about. So that's sort of what we're going to be watching for, I think, through the NWSL season. I do want to finish just talking about, some top contenders and potential spoilers for the World Cup. This is early days, folks, but we're going to put some feelers out there for these teams.
All right.
So coming in first on my list, on every list, the current number 2 team in the world.
Number 1. I was on their website today. They're ranked number 1 right now.
How did they do that?
They haven't played a game.
That doesn't make sense. Spain is number 1.
Unless they're just like, we did it. We're the best.
I don't think that's right. I think we're going to say they're number 2 because I'm pretty sure the reigning World Cup champion in Spain should be number 1. They're going to be the U.S. women's national team.
Yep.
Is going to be seeking major redemption from the last World Cup. It was their earliest exit ever in the round of 16 in a shootout loss to Sweden.
Ooh.
And they didn't play great in the group stages, I got to be honest. So I think they are back. They're going to be back on form. If you think about it, going back to like the roster building, I think Emma Hayes, her 10th game as manager for the U.S. women's national team was winning a gold medal in the Olympics.
Yeah. Yep.
She's had some time under her belt. She is one of the premier coaches in the world right now. And so I'm really excited to kind of see how she starts to shape this together as things start to get more real. Second on my list, I had England. England has been really just foot on the gas pedal for the last couple of years here. Really fun to watch. Lots of names that I think are really well recognized in the women's professional soccer world. They're the reigning 2025 European champions. They beat Spain in that tournament, and they lost to Spain in the last Women's World Cup in the championship as well. So they are definitely out to win that top title. Obviously have to mention Spain, the reigning #1 team, reigning Women's World Cup champions, the Euros runners up, opposite of England. If you've never watched the Spanish national team play, it's just art, right?
Yeah.
It's so technical, but it's beautiful.
Yep.
And it's a real treat to watch those players kind of orchestrate together, decide when to attack.
Yep.
They really can put a team on the back foot for sure. And then my 4th top contender is Brazil. Host nation. You got to give them a little bit of like, they're going to have the boost. They're 6th in the world right now. They just recently got a new management. So former U.S. Women's National Team manager Pia Sundhage had coached them through the last couple tournaments. They now have Arthur Elias as their team manager, and that seems to be going well. They recently beat the U.S. Women's National Team in a friendly late last year. So they are returning to form, I think, after a few years of up and down or inconsistency.
I was just wondering, I feel like Sweden's been up there for the past little bit.
Sweden is always around.
Yeah, they're like always around. So
they're on my spoilers list.
They're on the spoilers list. I thought they might be in the contenders list, but I haven't paid attention to where they're at in the last couple of years.
Yeah, so it's interesting. So I did do some diving on the history of these teams, right? And they're spoilers not from the sense that they're going to necessarily win the whole thing. They could.
Yeah.
They are spoilers because they often upset the teams that should.
Yes.
Right? They beat the US in the last one. They what was something that I saw on there? They lose to Spain, but they beat, somebody else who was supposed to be in. They are tough.
Yep.
They play tough. They always seem to pop up in the places where it's like, I would not want them on my side of the bracket. Another spoiler, Germany right now boasts the #3 team in the world. So besides the US and Spain, they're the only other nation with multiple World Cup championships. But they really haven't been at that level since the early 2000s. So 2003, 2007, they won back-to-back. They have been coming on recently. They are led by Anna Katrin-Berger, who plays goalkeeper for the Gotham FC here in the NWSL. So just won a championship with them. She's phenomenal goaltender. Additional on my spoilers list here, I have Colombia. They're ranked 20th in the world. This is a little more of like the Sweden thing, but what's cool about Colombia is they play a very like loose and free style of play. They have Linda Caicedo, who is she's the fastest player I think I've ever seen. And they consistently kind of just bother the other team that they're playing. And so they have the potential to spoil.
Yeah, they
whether
can kind
or not
of
they win is different.
Like mess up your flow a little bit if you're not used to that. Yeah.
Exactly. And if you're not ready, like football is one of those games where like if you just can counterattack and get one goal and then hunker down and play D, like any team can beat anybody. I've got Nigeria on here. So the Nigeria 37th in the world right now, but the only African team to have qualified for all 9 Women's World Cups.
Wow.
So they have experience, tend to have a lot of athleticism. They, again, can be a disruptor. Sweden, we mentioned, France, #7 in the world. They're riding some momentum, growing since the late 2010s. And then I had to throw in here Japan. Because Japan has definitely played spoiler for the United States before. They famously beat the U.S. for the 2011 title. The U.S. turned around and shellapped them in 2015. But Japan, like Spain, so technical, so disciplined. Like it's just a very smart, cerebral style of play, and they know when to pick their moments. I think they set a record. They in the last World Cup in group play, they beat Spain 4-0.
Wow.
So first of all, that's like an insane scoreline. That's not something you'd expect. But they beat Spain with less than 30% of the possession. So they literally
were just counterattacking.
Sat back, they picked their moments, and when they picked them, they converted.
Wow.
And that is just the discipline there. You got to admire.
That's got to be frustrating for for the other team to just be like, what, we can't crack this at all.
Yeah. So they're always really fun to watch and definitely a potential spoiler. I think we also have here a couple athletes to watch, just some names. We've mentioned a couple of these, right? Mallory Swanson, Sophia Wilson for the Team USA. We'll be paying attention to that just to see by World Cup time next year, are they going to be back in the mix? Are they going to be still working back from maternity leave? And frankly, they are phenomenal players.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of really good youth talent.
Yeah,
and so
yeah.
you got to wonder, they've got to push hard to get back and earn those spots on that roster, right? Aitana Bonmati, Alexis Putellas, and Mariona Caldente from Spain. These three women are like consistently voted Ballon d'Or winners, like Golden Boot.
Wow.
They win. Aitana Bonmati just won for 2025. I think Alexia Putellas did it for 2024 or something. Those two play for Barcelona. Mariona Caldente plays for Arsenal. But again, just crafty. They're so technically gifted, so smart. We'll move on to a better known NWSL name, Temwa Shawinga. She plays for Malawi. So we'll see if they qualify in the African Cup of Nations here in March. But Golden Boot and League MVP in the last 2 NWSL seasons, and certainly part of the KC Currents run to the Shield in this last season. We got Barbara Banda, who plays for Zambia. She's on the Orlando Pride, a consistent top of the table scorer in the NWSL. Sam Kerr, striking phenom from Australia, returning from ACL surgery when did she come back? She came back this fall, I believe. Has looked on form, but you're always kind of watching for that. And then Alessia Russo, Leah Williamson from England, and Linda Caicedo, I mentioned, and Myra Ramirez from Colombia are just always players that you kind of got to watch out for. So
what it feels like the U.S. women's national team has their work cut out for them. What chance do you give them to win this World Cup? At least it's not like the men's team where we have to say, are they even going to qualify? We know, we're pretty sure they're going to qualify. What are their chances?
They'll qualify. So here are my question spots, right? There's a couple questions, and I think we'll learn more about this over the course of the year. So the number one question I have, and I have a strong bias here.
Yep.
But is who is the number one goalkeeper now? Alyssa Nair retired last year. She's out. She's been back there for forever and is one of the best goalkeepers in U.S. women's national team history. That position anchors your entire team.
Yep.
And so it will be interesting to see who steps up to fill that void. Now we certainly have Casey Murphy, Kingsbury. Like there's players out there who have Jane Campbell who have been in the rotation, and it's just a matter of like who's going to actually. And then you've got people who are starting to get their shot. Fallon Tullis-Joyce, she's playing overseas with Manchester United. So that'll be interesting to watch for. The other thing I'm going to be watching for is the return of the triple espresso, right? We had this dynamic scoring trio of Swanson, Wilson, and Rodman in the Olympics when they won the gold medal. And with, Rodman's uncertainty, plus she's been dealing, like I said before, with some injury. And then Wilson and Swanson coming off of maternity leaves, it's sort of like what's going to happen up top. And will we see kind of the same effectiveness of that group? I mean, I remember when we were prepping to watch and getting ready to watch the Olympics, it was like, how do you defend that? Yeah. Like it was literally, they're the top 3 strikers in the world. And putting them together as a unit is pretty tough. And then I think the other thing is just like the veteran leadership. You had some key retirements over the course of last year. You obviously still have Lindsey Heaps in there, Rose Lavelle, Emily Sonnet, which are really going to help anchor kind of the spine of that formation. But it will be interesting to see how the youth can come in and like flourish. Yeah. I think their chances are pretty good.
Yep.
Like I said, I feel like I need more information. I also think we just went through a rundown of teams that are getting better.
Yeah.
And so the U.S. has to continually push to be the best, to be disciplined.
It's not going to feel like the last however many World Cups where it feels like it's just a foregone conclusion almost.
Yeah, I mean, they barely made it out of group stage in the last World Cup. So I think it'll be interesting to see, can they convincingly, once we get to that tournament, can they convincingly come out of that group stage? I think there's questions to be answered.
Yeah,
for sure.
I think the other thought that I had was moving on towards the Olympics. My understanding is that I think the roster goes from 23 in the World Cup to like 18 in the Olympics.
Yeah.
Are there any veterans who are kind of on that end of like, by 2028, you might not be the person for that Olympic roster since we've got to trim it down? Or are we looking like we're pretty solid?
No, I think that's always very famously, Abby Wambach was kind of sat on the bench, like came off the bench in her last Olympics, right? And I think it's a little bit less of a question of will those players participate, because I think there's some who may retire before that, but I feel like if you're in the flow right now, you're probably going through this next run of major tournaments. I think the question becomes, can you be comfortable with your role changing?
Yeah.
And can you really be a team player who wants to support the team however you can? And I think Abby Wambach did a phenomenal job of that. I think we saw Megan Rapinoe trying to do that in the last World Cup, right? I think where it gets tricky is for managers and coaches. It's like, well, I have this very talented, experienced player. When do I plug them in?
Yeah.
When are they going to give me what I need in order to win these games?
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, the Abby Wambach thing, I think any coach just needs to take some of their older players sometimes. Like, you need to watch this clip of Abby Wambach talking about this and what she did.
Go read Wolfpack.
It was, that whole story is just like phenomenal leadership. She knew what her job was. She knew she had to just like kind of let go of whatever and be the person to support the team. Yeah.
Go read Wolfpack, folks. It's a great book, short read, leadership book doesn't have to be for soccer. Yeah.
All right. Do we want to look at our Olympics countdown?
Yeah, let's quick take a look at the Olympics here. So we're just over 2 weeks out.
2 weeks,
over,
I think so.
Yeah. With key qualifying events occurring over this past weekend. So this was a big the qualifying weekend. Most teams will be announced between now and sort of the last week of January.
Yep.
So you want to walk us through some of the key U.S. qualifiers?
Yeah, we have, we talked a little bit earlier about alpine skiing, Michaela Schifrin, Lindsey Vonn, Paula Moltzan, and Nina O'Brien.
Yeah, so Schifrin, I think, is coming off like her 7th World Cup win in the qualifying tournament. Vonn's returning for her 5th Olympics. She had retired. She's back. She had a gnarly
broken leg or something.
Horrible injury. So that's really cool to see.
All right, ice hockey. 6 Badgers, 4 of whom are current NCAA players, including Layla Edwards. And I just need to ask, what is in the water of the recruiting office in Madison right now? 6 Badgers, and I think their college team is like 37-1.
Yeah, they're number 1 in the nation right now. Something, right? I was just talking to a buddy of mine at work this past week who's a former Badger alum like me, and he was like, well, thank God we have the women's hockey team for some success in sports. Not to say women's soccer has been doing well, cross country is always good, but women's hockey team we don't talk about that. I do want to point out, so Layla Edwards, we called out here. She will be the first Black woman on team representing Team USA on the ice hockey team. She is currently a collegiate athlete.
All right, figure skating. We talked last week. We gushed last week about Amber Glenn. We have Alyssa Liu and
Isabel Levito.
Thank you for that help.
Mm-hmm. So this is going to be, from what I'm reading, one of the strongest slates of U.S. women on the figure skating side in quite a while. It'll be interesting to see how they do at the international stage. I know I'll be glued to the television for that.
Ice dance, Madison Chalk and Evan Bates, 4th Olympics.
Yeah. So just another version of the figure skating, right? You kind of have the singles where people go out and do their short programs, long programs, but then ice dance is where they typically pair 2 skaters together. I know I've watched Madison Chalk and Evan Bates before. Artistry, athleticism, the balance of those things. It's awesome.
Snowboarding, Chloe Kim chasing 3rd consecutive half pipe gold. Recent injury though. Let's talk about that.
So she, I don't know how recent it was as far as in terms of right now. It was recent enough where it was put into question her ability to compete at the Olympics, but she tore her labrum in her shoulder on a fall. And I was reading an interview with her about and prepping for this, and she's like, oh no, I'll be fine.
Yeah.
And you're just kind of like, aren't you worried every time like that you're going to fall again? But these people are built completely different mentally.
But I also worry about like, you're doing a lot of rotating, which obviously it's your whole body. Like you can't hide. So I'm hoping, is that going to limit her at all? Just fill her up with painkillers and go at it, like
give her a lot of ibuprofen and she'll be fine.
Moving on to speed skating, Erin Jackson, 3rd Olympics and defending a 500-meter gold medal.
Yeah, so she another Black woman representing on the ice for Team USA. She's dealt with a series of injuries and health issues that have made it really hard for her to kind of stay in form, but she's qualified again. I think she took silver medal on the 1,000-meter speed skate in the last Olympics too. So she's going to be looking to maybe up her spot on the podium for that event as well.
Great. The cross country skiing, Jessie Diggins, 4th Olympics and a Minnesota native.
Yeah. Born and bred.
I was doing some research, and it feels, I think she's actually retiring after the Olympics.
I thought she was retired, to be honest. Sorry, Jessie.
Yeah. And so I think no matter what happens here, she wins, she loses. I think it's just kind of a cool victory lap to be able to, like, right before you retire, I'm going to do my last Olympics and just kind of enjoy it.
Yeah, that's really cool. So we'll be watching out for that. We'll bring another update in 2 weeks, right before we get started with the Olympics, which opening ceremony is February 6th. I believe Team USA actually drops the puck against Czechia on the 5th. So you can tune in a little early for some Team USA hockey. We're going to round things out today with just a quick update on the WNBA situation, specifically the moratorium agreement. So we mentioned this in top headlines on Monday, January 12th. Reuters reported that the league and the union had agreed to a moratorium on league business, specifically free agency. So my understanding is free agency for the players that are already in the league was supposed to start, as far as reach outs go, between teams and players on the 11th of January. And so they, the league had proposed, let's move to moratorium. The players union agreed to that. The main reason why they would agree is they're literally negotiating terms of contracts right now with significant changes anticipated, regardless of who actually kind of, I don't know, whatever side it ends up falling more towards. And so it doesn't make a ton of sense for players to be signing contracts when you might not get a contract that you would want, right?
So does this need to be figured out before any of these agents can sign? How does this?
No, we're literally in a limbo right now. Oh. So the CBA officially expired at midnight on January 9th. We are in a period now of status quo.
Yep.
Which means that the old CBA, the terms are still like, that's what we're operating under. Yep. So league work and things can continue to go on. But because of specifically with free agency, right? Because of the like lack of certainty around what those terms would be, they agreed to this moratorium. Now, I don't know how this plays into expansion drafts, because on the one hand, they're saying, you know, the league can continue to do business because we're under the status quo period, but then they did this moratorium. You've got 2 teams you need to do expansion drafts for. We've got the college draft that's going to be here before we know it in April. So it's really up in the air right now. Yeah. And frankly, the other thing about status quo is that now either side could move to a work stoppage at any time. And some of the signs that I'm seeing out there are indicating that the players are prepared to do this. Yeah. So there's a couple things that have come out in the recent last week here around this. And one of them is there's actually been universities and other fitness clubs, fitness centers, performance centers that have come out and said, hey, WNBA players, you have a home here if the league shuts you out of your training facilities. And so what this indicates is that the players would be able to continue to train. They'd continue to be able to get treatment and the support that they need, even if the league decides to shut them out, or frankly, if the players decide to strike. Additionally, we had some bold statements made by Natasha Cloud, a guard for the New York Liberty. She's playing in Unrivaled right now on the Phantom, on a podcast where she was like, Unrivaled's prepared to like keep the party going. And I initially heard that and I was like, oh yeah, they could totally do that. And then you kind of think about it a little bit more and it's like, maybe, and maybe that would be good for the players. But as far as like, Alex mentioned this earlier in the episode, but while the NWSL has like mature competition in these other leagues, Unrivaled, Athletes Unlimited, these other options that exist stateside for basketball players in lieu of the W just are not robust enough to like really sustain that. Now, players might look at it as a short-term thing, right? It's like, cool, we want to maintain, we want to keep playing, we want to keep competing. They own the building that they play in right now, so they have access to that in those facilities. So we'll
I think see. I thought it was an interesting statement, and I really liked the idea when I heard it, but then I was also similar, like, how sustainable is that? It's not, you're not going to all these different cities and playing because you can't. You're relying solely on, to be honest, it's a smaller venue. It's a few thousand people. Yeah. And you'd be playing 2 games a night every single night to try and replicate part of the schedule for the WNBA.
Right. So I think one other thing worth noticing or knowing about this is right now, I looked at this list. According to SpotTrack.com, there are over 100 players in the WNBA who are listed as free agents. Now it's different types of free agencies. You've got unrestricted, restricted, all sorts of different things in between there. But these are some of the names that were on that list. And I'm sitting there being like, okay, so all of these players are like out of contract right now. Like what's going on? But we've got Kelsey Mitchell from the Indiana Fever, Sabrina Ionescu from the New York Liberty, Arike Agumbawale, Alyssa Thomas, Kelsey Plum, Asia Wilson, Brianna Stewart, Nneka Agumuke, Nafisa Collier, Tina Charles, Brittany Griner. Like, These are
a lot of the
it was like all the players.
When you think of WNBA are free agents right now.
Basically, like unless you signed a rookie contract in the last 2 to 3 years, you are a free agent at this moment. So anyways, it'll be interesting to see. Again, we're going to keep our eyes out. The Players Association is certainly frustrated. They continue to kind of say the league is not negotiating good faith. The league continues to say we're negotiating good faith. So it seems to be what they call an impasse.
Yes. All right. Good update there. Let's switch over to what to watch. Starting off, U.S. Women's National Team plays an international friendly on Saturday, July 24th versus Paraguay.
Yeah.
4:30 p.m. Central in Carson, California. Featuring the return of Trinity Rodman, who didn't play most of the year last year due to, I believe, a lingering back injury and MCL sprain.
Yeah.
You can find it on TNT, True TV, HBO Max, and Peacock.
So that one we will definitely be tuning into. I'm very curious to see how much she plays.
Yeah.
So
do you think she'll start, or do you think she'll probably come in off the bench?
I don't know. So Washington Spirit made the NWSL championship against Gotham, and she was available. I think she came on for a little bit, and then right.
I don't think she was on long.
And then she didn't play in the semifinal, even though she was available. So it's been a few months. Like, it's possible that she's back to form. She's had time to rest and recover, but I will be watching for, like, does she start? Is she limited minutes? Like, how is that going to play? And then I think the other big thing here is a ton of youth call-ups again. So we're going to be watching some players who have gotten some time and see, like, how, can they continue to solidify their positions in that team, but also some new names, I think.
Yep. Next up, PWHL, and we're going to talk Minnesota again. We are playing New York. We are number 3. They're number 2, playing them on Sunday. So this is a battle for second place. If the standings hold, the day that this is released, this podcast is released, there's going to be a game between the number 3 Frost and the number 4 Montreal Victoire.
Ooh.
So depending on who wins that game, we'll put, the bearings on that next game on Sunday. But
Go
big
Frost.
game there. Go Frost. Unrivaled. Like we said earlier, I think any team can win on any given day.
Seriously.
Just with how the rules are in that league. So, I mean, it's just a full slate of games again, 4 days in a row, Friday through Monday, on True TV in the evenings. And I think just any game.
Yeah. I promise we're not being paid by them. It's actually really fun to watch.
It's really fun to watch. It's like, we're happy that it's Thursday because we're like, all right, here we go. Let's watch.
That's right.
Next up, LOVB, a Texas showdown. LOVB Houston versus LOVB Austin on Saturday night, 6:30 Central on Victory Plus. So LOVB Houston is 0-2. LOVB Austin is 2-1. So Austin's doing well, but you have that interstate matchup. It's always going to be fun.
Excuse me.
Next up, Australian Open. So around the time we recorded this, it's still in round 1. I did see your girl Coco Gauff won her first round, and it's going to be moving on. She plays Olga Danilovic of Serbia at some point this week. I don't think it's yet been planned out.
Yeah, probably closer to the weekend. They kind of play around the weekends.
Yep.
And they have to figure out what courts they're going to play on and all that kind of thing.
Moving on to college, we have, for college hockey, 3 ranked matchups. Number 12, Colgate versus number 6, Quinnipiac. Number 10, Cornell versus number 9, Princeton. And number 8, Duluth versus number 14, Minnesota State.
Ooh.
So in-state rivalry again.
Nice.
You can find these all on a mix of either ESPN Plus or Big Ten.
Cool.
Basketball, the 2 games I have circled here. Actually, I have 3 games. 2 ranked, 1 unranked. Number 14, Ohio State, who is 16-2, at number 11, Iowa, who's 15-2.
Ooh.
Sunday at 1 p.m. on Peacock. So it's crazy that number 14, Ohio State, is 2 losses, and they're number 14.
Yeah.
I think I saw UConn was
a lot and 0.
18 or 19-0. It's insane.
Again, Gino doing Gino things.
Exactly. We have number 5 Vanderbilt 18-0 versus number 2 South Carolina, who's 19-1.
Nice.
Sunday at 2 p.m. on ESPN. And we have an unranked matchup.
Ooh.
Why would I circle this?
It's either the Badgers or the Mavericks. It's the Mavericks.
Well, it's basketball, so we're still in D1.
Oh, okay.
A border battle on Sunday. UW-Madison, who's 12-7, versus U of M at 12-6 at 2 p.m. on Big Ten Plus.
All right.
We'll check it out. I won't pretend like I went to the U.
Good, you shouldn't. I did.
Yeah.
I went both.
Yeah, you did go to both.
Yeah.
All right. That is what I have for what to watch. We are going to kind of wrap it up here and go with our winners and losers.
Oh, man. Yikes. Let's see. I think for me, I mean, winners is like there's so much going on.
Yeah.
Like, there's no shortage. But I was going to say, I think bringing women's professional soccer to Colorado is a big win.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a great market. I think they're making some good moves. We talked about a few of those things with the facilities, with the signing of Heaps and OK. And like, that's a city that's passionate about their sports teams. And I'm excited to see how they do.
Yeah. My winner was the Denver Summit.
Oh my gosh. Look at us.
I mean, they got Lindsey Heaps to come back home from where she was at Lyon.
Yeah, Olympic Lyon.
So like you have this big time player playing at a great team and you got them to come back. So like that's a huge win.
Yeah. From a loser's perspective, I mean, I feel like we say this every week, but I want to go back to what we were talking about right there at the end with the WNBA. And it's like one thing if the players can continue to play, which is great. I think it's, you just keep your edge, whatever, you can continue to compete. But from a fan base perspective, and I'm already starting to get the sense that some of that momentum that we talked about in past episodes is slowing down. Maybe not gone, but like they got to be careful here. And I think they're starting to run out the clock on like what's appropriate and what the fan base is willing to tolerate. So that feels like a loss to me. Again, it's a bummer.
Yeah. I don't see it as a big loss here for my loser. I said the NWSL losing Sam Coffey to Manchester City, and then the whole grievance and rule rescission. It's not a huge loss. I just think, like we're talking about with the WNBA momentum, all these different things that are happening, and you don't want to lose anything good that's going on right now.
Yeah,
and it's just kind of it's a little bit of a mess right now.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's, as we think about it, like we've talked about, it's a similar battle, but across the two leagues and players wanting to be valued for what they think they're worth, which is great. It's interesting as we've talked through this and researched it a little bit more to think about the positions are slightly different, right? The WNBA, we just talked about that today, like they don't have as much outside market competition.
Yep.
And so the league actually has that's like the first time I've realized like maybe the league has a little bit of an advantage because like where else are these players going to go? Yeah. NWSL is different where it's like, well, I'll just leave.
Yeah.
And then the business is screwed. Right?
Yeah, so, exactly.
It's been really fun to like deep dive into these and juxtapose the different labor battles here. We'll see what comes up next. I
think my goal for next week is to have a loser that is not the NWSL or related to the WNBA.
Okay, let's make it a challenge.
That's a challenge for next week. All right.
Yes, I can agree with that.
We'll do that.
All right. Well, thanks for tuning in today. We appreciate you being here. Catch us every week.
Yeah. So we're doing this every week. Yeah. This is our first official episode.
Yeah.
That's going out to Spotify, YouTube.
Where can you find us?
We can find us on Spotify, YouTube. I think we'll be on Apple Podcasts as well. Instagram at RTG_pod. Same on Threads, same on YouTube. And I think that's what we're doing for socials right now.
All right. Catch us there.
Yeah. See you next
Till
time.
next week.
Bye.
Bye.